Okay, so on the workbench today, we have another guitar from the collection of P. Holiday, and this is a Watkins Rapier 33, and I think according to P, this is from 1958. So what we're planning on doing with the guitar is, we're going to strip it down completely, we're going to clean all the parts, and we're going to give it a new paint job. And the new paint job that P has planned is totally different to the one that's on it now, but we'll get into that later when we get around to the painting. So we're just going to give you a quick overview of the guitar and just show you some of the issues that it has and what we're hoping to resolve with this refurbishment project. So just starting up the top here, this is the headstock. You can see the paint is all badly chipped around. You can see some of the red paint job that was underneath it, and we've got some issues here with some bent machine heads, and we've got a mismatch in a button here, so we'll be doing something about that. Coming down, got the nuts loose. Our zero fret here is very badly worn, so we're more than likely going to be replacing that. The fret ends are all very sharp, so we'll do a complete fret job on it. We'll level the frets, crown them, polish them, and dress the ends and that to get rid of all that. There's no actual truss rod in the neck at all, so we've no method for adjusting any of our back bow or relief. There is, as far as I know, supposed to be an aluminium strip that runs right down through the center of the neck, and we'll probably move the nut out completely to see if that is there. And then going further down, you can see the body has quite a lot of damage, and just down here as well we can see that even though this is a left-handed guitar, somebody had drilled for another strap button for a right-handed user to use this. At the same time they also bent the tremolo arm so it would suit a right-handed user, so that has to be fixed and rectified. And we'll also be patching this hole here as well. Onto the pickguard now. You can see the switches are quite dirty and that'll all need to be cleaned, but everything does work. We plugged it in and it does make sound, and we've got our 3 pickups here. Very interesting pickups. When we take the pickguard off, we'll show you the inside of them. They only have 5 pole pieces instead of 6. All our switches here. Pete was telling me, and I was looking it up as well, that these are actually switches. They were originally used on hair dryers back then, and this was just a money saving measure to use them here. We've got our bridge and our tremolo unit. We just gave this surface here a quick clean to see what the metal was like and how it would take a cleaning, and it looks like it will be okay when we put it all together. And we've got a mismatch in a strap button there, so again that's something that will have to be replaced. Just turning the instrument over now, and you can see the finish on the back. You can see some of the marks we have, and you can see all the lines here from the polyester, I think it was used. And you can see we've got a set neck as well, so the neck all stays one piece. We've got another hole here where it looks like there was another strap button drilled just to maybe make the guitar balance if it was a right-handed user who wasn't obviously going to be using the left-handed button. And you can see we've got our finish here, just comes up part way up the neck. Then we've got it's kind of like a D-shaped kind of neck. It's a bit flat on the back. And then coming up here we can see again the finish kind of fades off here, leaving the neck natural up onto the headstock. And you can see our tuners here are quite filthy, so they'll need to be clean. And you can just see again this one machine head here is bent, and also our high E here as well, so that's something we'll have to repair. Just taking her back over. So what we're going to do is to take all our parts off, strip the guitar down completely, and just start cleaning all those individual parts, and then we'll get the body completely sanded back down to natural wood, and we'll start planning for a new paint job. So the first thing we're going to do is take the strings off, and then we'll take the pickguard off, and that should take all of the electronics with it, because everything is self-contained there. Then we'll get our bridge and tremolo unit off, and we'll get our strap buttons off and our machine heads off, and we'll take the nut out and double check that our aluminium stability bar is there, and then we'll just start to move on to the process of checking all the parts. We have plenty of bags there and masking tape and stuff to keep everything labelled so it all goes back where it should, and then we'll start the process of cleaning up our parts and stripping the body down. So with the strings off, you can see the nut is completely free to move, and one unfortunate thing about the nut is And because this guitar seems to have been used by a right-handed player, the nut slots have all been widened all along, so they're much too wide for the likes of the high E here and the B. So what we might have to do is patch up the nut inside, maybe fill it with some bone dust and some glue or something like that to try and close that up, or we may even make a new nut. We'll have to see. And you can see the damage that we have here to our 0 fret, so that definitely needs to be replaced. We've got a really deep gouge here that goes right into through the fret and touches the fingerboard. So with that out of the way, we can now do a check here and see have we got our stability bar. So we've just got our light in here just to try and help us show, and with the nut out we can see two things. We can see this strip of wood here was added as a shim to raise the nut up slightly, probably when it was being converted to be used by a right-handed user. And this might be very, very hard to make out, but just where the tip of this scribe is just here, we can just see the start of the aluminium stability bar in the neck, so it definitely does have one. So that's a good plus anyway. So now we'll keep moving on and strip down the rest of the guitar. So here's our two strap buttons. We've got an original here, and this is the one that was in the back. It was some piece of plastic that had been screwed in place and then a plastic cap super glued on top. That was quite difficult to remove and just horrible in general. And just to show you the gap and the hole that it's now left in the back, so we'll have to plug that and make that part of our refinish so that we can put a regular sized screw in again. So we're just taking apart our bridge now, so this top piece should just pop off, and it does. And then we've our two adjustment screws or thumb wheels, so they've come off, and then we have two flathead screws here that are holding everything in place. And now that the bridge has come out, I'll just take it in closer and show you what's going on here. So we've just removed our bridge piece here, and if you can see just inside these holes here, there's just a couple of matchsticks stuck in loosely, not even glued in place at all, just to try and give the screw something to bite into. So it seems as if this has been re-drilled, which it actually doesn't appear to be, so it makes me think that the screws holding the bridge in aren't original, or that something funny went on here. But anyway, that's just another thing we'll add to our list of what we'll repair, so the holes are the appropriate size for the screws to go straight back in. So we're just in the process now of taking out the vibrato unit. And again, we're using our bag here to hold on to everything and making sure the appropriate screws stay with the appropriate part. As I was saying earlier, we actually did some cleaning just along this part here, just to see how some of the other metal parts would react if we did try and clean them up, and they seem to be doing okay. I don't think we're going to get them absolutely pristine, but we should be able to get all the dirt off and get them, you know, to a nearly new and shiny finish. So there's the inside of our vibrato unit, very clean inside. So straight away we're bagging that so nothing happens to it. And we can see inside our cavity here some dust, but it's actually quite clean. So we'll press on. So next we have our scratch plate, our pick guard, and this contains all our electronics. So we'll just take all the screws first and put them into a small bag, and then we'll start to check what's going on inside the scratch plate and have a look at our electronics. So that's all our pickguard screws out, so this whole unit should just come out in one piece, and it has. And as you can see, it wasn't attached to anything, so we have no ground wire in it at all, so that's a modification we'll have to do. So we'll just have a quick look at the pickguard now. So just taking a look at the back side of the pickguard now. We have our 3 pickups. We've got our selector switch there. As you said, we've got our Pifco hairdryer switch there. And we've got our pots, all our wire and our caps, our capacitors. and our output jack. A lot of this looks very familiar from the burns we did recently. We probably use a lot of similar parts, but everything looks okay, and as we said, we've already tested the electronics and they do work. So the only real modification here we'll be adding a ground wire, and we'll just be giving everything just a bit of a clean up and that, but functionally all the electronics are okay. So we'll just get ready to continue with our stripping down. So we're just taking a look at our cavity now here that was routed out to allow the electronics to go in. And just to say, first of all, one of our pickguard screws had no bite at all. It completely just pulled out. So you can see the wood is broken through there completely. So we'll be reinforcing this area here so the screw has something to bite into. And we've no holes at all along here or anywhere along here. So the guitar was never originally drilled to have a ground wire. So that's an addition we'll have to make. You can see these marks here that correspond to where our pots were, and these are actually plugs. So it's very hard to tell, but on the back of the guitar it doesn't quite come through on the light, but you can sort of feel it. We've got some marks here. So I would think that this body was originally drilled to have its controls on the opposite side. It was made to be right-handed, and then they came back and plugged these holes up so it could accommodate the left-handed electronics. So this whole cavity will be shielded before we put it back together. So we're going to move on now. So we're just getting ready to take off our tuners here, and you can see they're quite filthy. So we'll be giving these a good oil bath and probably some ultrasonic cleaning if we can to try and clean them up. And you can see, as I said, our machine head here is bent, and this one here for the high E, so we'll be trying to straighten that out. We've also got a mismatched button here, so we'll be seeing what we can do about that to get all the buttons matching correctly. So we'll just take these off now. So with this machine head out, or tuner, you can just see that we actually have two holes to allow the strings to go through, and that's very much like old style mandolin tuners. So these may have been a part that was reused because they had some in stock, but it's interesting, you don't really see the second tuning hole once they're in, but just an interesting part to note. So another modification we'll be making will be to put in some actual side dots. The ones that are on at the moment are just very poorly painted on, so we'll come back and we'll put some actual plastic 3mm side dots in there. So this is the guitar, pretty much completely stripped down. We still have the 0 fret to take out, but we'll do that at a later time. And with everything off it, this guitar is a complete featherweight, there's no weight to it at all. So we'll just get ready now and start to strip the finish down and get ourselves back to completely bare wood.